So this, as it turns out, is what happens when you haven't been streaming for a week. You set everything up and then you forget to hit the go live button on YouTube. So that went well. We're starting as we mean to go on. We're starting with some technical issues, although I feel like it's more a skill issue than a technical issue. But good evening all. Hope you're all doing well. It's good to see you after a week of being away. Spent some time down with the family, and I had a really good time down in Plymouth in the West Country in the UK. Now back and hopefully bringing you some really good news from Star Citizen. Having a bit of a deep dive today into CitizenCon and the news and what I think that might mean going forward. But good evening to everyone in chat. Good evening to Shadow Girl, to Zaveth, to Dodomo, to Monster AV, and any of the other lurkers, etc. that we have in chat. If you are around, do feel so to say hi. But yes, exactly, Zaveth. I got my head sharpened. I'm feeling rested. Good evening, Ray. Good evening, Citizen Ninja. Good to see you both. It's all good. Unfortunately, we had a bit of an event on Friday night. We did some catch up for the Overdrive Initiative, but as it turned out, I ended up driving almost double the time that I thought I was going to drive on that day. So I was pretty tired. So basically, kind of ended up spending half of it almost asleep, and desperately trying to catch up with myself. But that's okay because we're going to put another one up during the week, in the week coming. So keep an eye on that. We'll put details up in Discord. So we can have another whack at the Overdrive event. We are obviously in the penultimate week. Last mission, I think, is coming up next week. Check my math? Question mark. But yes, so that's the plan at the moment. So I hope everyone's doing well. I wanted to take a bit of a look today at the sort of things that have been released around CitizenCon. CitizenCon tickets are out next week on the 11th. They come out at 4 p.m. UTC, so whatever that means for your own time zone, if you're not here or if you're not in Zulu time zone. Mad Teapot, good evening, buddy. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So they've basically given us a few details about what's going to go on with CitizenCon. We know that they're releasing tickets on the 11th to Concierge, on the 12th to main release. And there's a couple of little details that I wanted to go through because, as I'm sure I've kind of mentioned to you before, I went to the one in 2019 in Manchester, and that one was sold out during the ticket sale. So they did it like they're doing it now. They did it in 3 tranches, but as general release for everyone. And within, I think, about an hour of the last tranche going up, all the tickets were sold out, and that was it. The timescale might have been a little bit different, but that's that, right? So what it seems to me now, we'll jump over and we'll have a look. But what it very much seems to me now is that that is not the case this time round. Let's have a look. So there's your release schedule just above my head as we talk. As we can see there's 2 types of tickets coming out next week. On April the 11th is the Concierge and subscribers get access to that wave. So if you are either wave 1 starting at 1600 UTC, and then it looks like every 8 hours after that. So yeah, and that's 3 waves. And then on the following day, again, at 1600 UTC, every 8 hours will be the general waves, the general sale. 2 types of tickets coming out next week. You've got general tickets, they call the access ticket, which is swag, physical, digital, all that sort of stuff. So you get an in-game like online goodies pack, the stuff that you buy if you're going to buy it from the website, you get given for free when you go there, or as part of your ticket price. They're also doing something called a premium experience ticket, and it says an extremely limited upgrade. Add VIP perks including a dedicated private lounge, priority access lanes, extra physical and digital swag, which I'm all about, discounted merchandise, and more. There is no information yet on prices and such, so it looks like if you look at what the prices were last year in LA, the prices were about $200 for the weekend for the standard ticket. And then I think it was about $100 more than that was the advanced one. So we can be looking at about the same, because it looks like it's going to be about the same sort of time frame that they'll be doing stuff. Okay. So yeah, I'll go on to the Q&A first, because there's a couple of answers in there I wanted to go into, and then we'll come down to that bottom feature just over there. We'll have a look at that in just a second. Okay, so taking place in Manchester, great. And they say that they're changing things up slightly. That day one, Saturday, will be the longer of the 2 days. If you remember back to the last one, if you watched it on Twitch or if you were there, the 2 days were the same length, same timing, same start finish roughly between the two. Now they're going to change it up, which is a common sense approach in my book. Saturday's going to be the longer day. Sunday will be the shorter day, and that enables people who want to get on the road afterwards the ability to do so. So that's going to happen, which is good. Unsurprisingly, there's no information about what's going on at the convention other than this repeated statement that they're making that it's going to be the biggest yet, which I think, to be fair, they've made every single CitizenCon, so, great. All right. As it says here, they will not be putting up extra tickets for sale. They will be streaming it, and it will be 100% live to watch on Twitch, as they've done in previous years. Good evening, Scott. Good to see you, buddy. So yes, so there's the good news is that for those that aren't going to the event, nothing's changed other than plan for more time on the Saturday, because Saturday's going to be the longer day, Sunday being the shorter one. If you're going, there will be differences. Now, it does say up here that tickets will be available in 2 tiers, both in limited quantities. I think the premium experience, as they're calling it, will be the actually really limited one, and they kind of hint at that with saying it's extremely limited. I'm not 100% sure, though, that it's limited like it was back in 2019, and here's why. They say down here, can I buy multiple tickets for my friends and family? Yes, you can buy up to 5 tickets per cart for the general access ticket, and share those tickets with friends once we deliver them closer to the event. Okay, and due to the limited quantity, premium experience tickets will be unique, 1 per account, non-giftable, non-transferable. So the name on the account will have to be the name of the person that attends, and you need photo ID and stuff like that to do that. Okay, so this is why I think they're going to do it in the larger areas of the Manchester Exhibition Centre, or whatever it's called, the Manchester Arena. The reason I say that is because it would be very weird to offer up to 5, because people will just scalp them, even if they just say, look, I'll transfer it to you on the day, but I'm going to charge you 100% more than what you would have paid for them. So I think for those, it's very likely that it's been that they've got bigger space than what they had in 2019. So that's my first observation about the information we've got. So, yep. So the physical swag that you get is there. You'll get a digital goodies pack for arriving as well. Okay. And then digital goodies packs will actually be giftable, which is how you give them out with the tickets. So buy 4 tickets, get 4 digital goodies packs. And yes, they will sell them. Okay. And if you go, which is, I guess, kind of good, but kind of not, if all you're going for the premium experience ticket is basically the digital stuff, you can buy that separately if you've already bought the normal one. So the premium experience digital goodies pack will not be available to those without a premium experience. So that stuff, I'll flip what I said round, you won't be able to get access to that. So you might need to buy that ticket if that's what you want. How long's SAT going to be? Hopefully it doesn't feel like a slog to get through. No, I think that what they're probably going to do is they're going to just shift maybe 2 hours out of Sunday and shift it into Saturday, depending on what they've got. So there's that. Okay. No, you can't use store credit. Yes, non-backers can get a ticket. There'll be food stores as they were. You can take water bottles. You can bring your own food and drink. As long as it's not alcoholic, that's fine. And there's always new merch going up at CitizenCon, and there'll be a stack of it there, so you can go and buy that stuff, which is very, very cool. Okay. You can record all that sort of stuff, which is kind of useful. Now, one of the main questions I think is where I want to go with this. Okay. Let's go back to this. And this is the main observation that I want to make. Okay. Is this the CitizenCon Gala? Okay. Now, this is entirely separate from CitizenCon itself. When they did this in LA, they did an event and it was attached as part of your premium ticket. This is going to be entirely separate. And it says this: join the team at an off-site venue for unforgettable night of exciting reveals, extra special guests, themed fare, so food and stuff, and guided tours of our brand new Manchester studio. Separate from CitizenCon, this event will require its own ticket with extremely limited availability. Stay tuned for more information in the months ahead. Good evening, my arch. Good to see you, bud. Okay. And then there's this question: can you share any more information? The event will take place at a separate venue in the Greater Manchester area. Those attending can expect an unforgettable night of exciting reveals, extra special guests, and that's what they said before. More information and tickets to come in the months ahead. So that stuff isn't on sale yet. It's going to be released down the line, not as part of the stuff that's happening this week with the main ticket reveals. Most of that, I think, is what we can expect. You go and meet, you get a much more kind of closed doors. There's reveals, so maybe you get to find out ships, maybe you get to play a little bit of Squadron 42. Whatever it is, I think that's pretty standard. So, here's the bit where you're not allowed to go and clip me and quote me out of context. All right. What I'm going to say now is there's 3 words in that make me wonder what they're up to. Okay. And those words, can anyone guess what they are from that? Put it in chat if you think you know where I'm going with this. There's 3 words that they say that I'm thinking, I wonder. Okay. We'll just give it a moment so the latency on the stream can catch up, and we'll see what people say. So where I'm going with this is the 3 words, exactly that, Senef. Hey, Hagrim, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for coming along on Friday. Sorry, I was really tired and not really chatty, but yeah, thank you for being there, bud. Yeah, extra special gifts. Senef has it. Now, we had Benoit Beauséjour from Montreal to the LA one. They weren't touted as an extra special guest. The extra special guests make me wonder who's going to be a guest at CitizenCon. Can you see where I'm going with this yet? Okay, one possibility. Well, Zavith, they've said extra special guests, so I agree with that. Socially confused. Good evening, bud. Good to see you. That I get that bit. Here's the bit. Yeah, that. What if the extra special guests are some of the cast members from Squadron 42? And what if one of the panels at CitizenCon is going to be them talking about their experiences of recording the voice lines, of doing the whole body? Because if you look on YouTube, those videos already exist. Okay. Yeah, it could be Mark, it could be Gary. It would almost certainly include the male and female actors who played the characters. Could be Henry, because I mean, this is, thinking of Henry specifically, this is right up his street. This is Geek Town Central. And if you don't know this about Henry, he plays Warhammer, so he's appeared on a lot of the geek stuff. His heart is in the geek community with us. He's a gamer. There's that great video of him making building a PC, which I'll see if I can find whilst we're talking. But yeah, so there's and I'm not saying that I'm certain that that's what it is, but it's planted that seed in my head. Now, if you remember when we talked about CitizenCon last year, I said that it had planted a couple seeds in my head, and very few, if any, of them came to fruition. Right, so I don't have the best track record when it came to, or when it comes rather to predicting stuff at CitizenCon. However, when you just think it's an off-site venue, there's obviously closed doors getting people into and out of the studio. It may well be Zaveth, you're a monster. Stop it. But yeah, I wonder. I think extra special guests. If it's not something like that, if it's not someone that's already a part of the CIG family that we know about, like the Montreal Turbulent, all that sort of stuff, if it's not, I think that's very poor wording, and I think that's intentionally misleading. So we'll just put that out there. It doesn't have to be the Squadron 42 guys, but it needs to be something that people go, oh, wasn't expecting that, as opposed to, wait, it's just a bunch of guys from the LA and Canada studios, really? Because that would be crap, right? But I think we're going to know that when it comes to the tickets. Um, you know, this is very likely just reading into it, but they talked about this citizen. We already know this CitizenCon is going to be the best one yet. I think they said. I'm just looking for it now. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to find the exact wording, but I think when they put up the original save the date, which was very very early, they had said at that point that we already know this is going to be the best one yet. So yeah, what do you guys think? Am I huffing the copium or the hopium really really hard here? Is that, what do we think? Is that what's going on? I'm excited either way, says Alice. Squadron 42 release date announcement. That's my feeling, Scott. That's my guess. Um, at this point, I don't know. I think it's very possible a year of polish. Is that what it is? 100% it is, says Scott. Interesting. Unfortunately, you can clip me on that, says Scott. Understood. We shall revisit this if we'll revisit this after CitizenCon, and if there isn't a Squadron 42 date, we all blame Scott. But yeah, no, don't blame Scott. Yeah, that's my thoughts on CitizenCon. That's my thoughts on where that's going to go. Um, I don't know. Maybe it is hopium. Maybe I'm hoping that they'll finally shift the production team across to Citizen. I'll get it right the third time round, to Star Citizen for a few years and then go off with episode 2 in mind, or keep a skeleton crew on to start concepting and working down that road, and where they want the story to go and all the narrative stuff and all that doesn't need to be have a huge team working on it just now, in exactly the same way that when they did Grand Theft and Red Dead, they were already working on Red Dead 2 in a small capacity, so that when those games were done, they could switch over. I'm hoping that the best special guest would be the Samworth, says Alith. Squadron 42 announcement at the least, says AB. Senev says, I can see the glint of greatness this year. Oh god, glint! Don't use the word glint. You'll set people off. Don't use glint. Blame Scott badges. Oh god, here we go. There'll be an entire mission playable demo on the floor, guaranteed. Yeah, whether that's on the floor or whether that's at the gala or whatever. But I think so. There's a Clint TM. No! Stop! They'll hear you. The trolls. They'll come a knocking. Stop. um. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's going to be certainly something to bear in mind. Obviously, we'll get more details as we go forward. That almost goes without saying. It's almost a redundant thing saying that now. But yeah, I think CitizenCon is back and bigger than ever, and of course they're going to say that. You know, here we go. Building on last year's phenomenal show, 2954 promises to be an even more expansive and immersive affair, um, and a place where we can once again come together to share our. What do you think the next word is? Love of the game? Passion for Star Citizen? No, it's neither of those. Victories. To share our victories, which is really interesting. So yeah, maybe that's the victory, right? The victory is the success that they've had it. That they've finally got a release date for it. That would be clever, right? And then again, it says here, if ever there was a CitizenCon not to miss, it's this one. So so this is what normally happens, right? I'm going to do a tangent, but it's all linked, right? I used to manage a store for Games Workshop for the company that makes Warhammer. When I came out of the Navy, it was the first thing I did. And people, I'm sure if you've ever been one, you've been a subject of a bad selling technique, right? Here's the job, right? This is the job of being a salesperson for Games Workshop. Is someone comes in and you say, "Hi, how you doing?" And they go, yeah, I'm great. And you go, "Okay, fantastic. What's brought you in today?" And you just listen for what they get excited about. So you'll get guys who come in and go, "Oh yeah, well, I'm kind of working on the Space Marines," and I'd be like, "Dude, you don't sound too excited about it. What's getting you down?" "Oh well, I'm sick of petting. Or I'm not entirely sure I'm going to stick with Space Marines or whatever." You go, "Okay, well, cool, but so what other things have caught your eye?" Or you know, you sound really excited when you talked about blah. And basically, the job is I ask you questions about something you're excited about to increase that level of excitement. And then when you're basically at fever pitch, like, yeah, I really like it, I go, "Cool. Do you want to buy that now?" That's the whole job. Is you listen to someone, you listen to get them excited, and then you ask them if they want to buy it. That's it. Because it's a luxury item, right? It's not about, well, hey, if you don't feed your family this, then what are you going to feed them? It's just about them getting excited, right? So I'm just going to put me back in the middle. I want to be in the middle of everything. Oh my god, this camera. There we go. Thanks. So there's that, right? The problem with that is I used to get excited with them, and the amount of times I sold myself stuff through talking to them, I became my own worst enemy. The problem here is as I'm talking to you guys and reading those lines out, I really want to go to the gala. I really want to go to the gala. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll see what money it requires and blah. But we'll see. Well, Scott says, "Go, you enabler." Yeah. The trick is we'll see how much it is, and the main trick I think is going to be ticket availability. So, if we can, I will, I'll get a ticket, and I'll head along. Um, I know I've said there's lots of us that are meeting up over there. There's Can's coming, Edison's coming, Avi, I think you said you might come across. I know Dell's coming across. There's a whole bunch of people that are going to meet up, and other people I know that the Info Runners lads are coming up as well, so that's going to be really cool to meet them. And obviously, there's going to be people like Space and Morph and all that sort of stuff. Board will be there. So yeah, imagine being within 10 foot of Luke Skywalker, right? If you're there, imagine and get a selfie and getting him to sign something, right? I'm going, says Janice. Janice, awesome, mate. I will see you there, buddy. So I know that we want to get there and we want to meet. And in the I've got a CitizenCon thread in the Discord. Links in the description if you want to come along. Once you're in, I'll give you the role so you can see everything. You won't be able to see it when you first join. But yeah, if I'm going to put details of the hotel. You don't have to come up for the whole time. You don't have to be there like at all with us. You don't have to stay in the same place. None of that. But if you just want to, meet and come and say hello and whatever else, then we would love to have you. And I know we're going to get Dell very drunk. It's probably a good job that he's not here, but we are going to get Dell very drunk, which will be fun. I also hope we get the Polaris flyable in game by CitizenCon, but it might come at IAE, maybe with Jax returning from Pyro in the Polaris. Yeah, I'm actually not in the Discord. I'll join now. Awesome, Josh. Yeah, we'll see you in there, and once the stream's done, I'll come and add you. But yeah, so that's the plan. Definitely going to CitizenCon. Got the accommodation. All the details are going up in the Discord of where we're staying. The beautiful thing is the hotel that I'm going to link to, if they've still got capacity, they don't take payment until the day of. So you don't lose anything if you don't yet have a ticket. You can just book a room, and if you don't, you just cancel it, and that's that. Jackson and Polaris throwing torps would make me howl with excitement, says Senef. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that's the plan. Imagine getting bounced for drunken rizzing Agent Scully. Yeah, I have a feeling Agent Scully could kick my ass, so I'm not going to get involved in that. But yeah, it would be just great. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to see if I can get into the gala, and of course, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and tell you guys about it. I don't know if I'll be live streaming from the event. It's very unlikely, I think, just because I want to go there. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to have to do all the setup and all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And also, this for me is a social thing, so it's to meet members of the community and focus on us being together rather than focusing on trying to get streams up and content out and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, Mad Teapot, I'm probably going, but I'll need time off work though. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was supposed to be doing a training course the week afterwards, which I've shifted to the week before because lol, geek obsession. So yeah, there's that. Note to self: save your annual leave. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I got to be that guy and ask, whatever it is, you gonna believe the release date? If it's within 6 months of the announcement, yes. And that comes from one thing that Chris said, and it's only one thing, and I accept that it might be completely the wrong thing. I've never claimed to be like the great predictor of what they do and that sort of stuff. But having said that, I genuinely think that the likelihood is he made some comment, Chris did, about traditional games design gives you 6 months from announcement to release. And that's one of the challenges that they've had, that people have known about this game for years. It's obviously the enabler because it's what's given them the money to do what they need to do. But I think if they say it's going to be in a year or it's going to be a year away, I'm going to be less certain, less likely to believe them. If they say it's within 6 months of the announcement date or the release date being announced, yeah, I'll go with that. Because I think that's what Chris is used to, right? Squadron 42 April 2025 confirmed. You heard it here first, folks. I mean, it might even be like Christmas, right? And generate it for Christmas. I don't know. I don't know what else is going. I suppose as we get further down the year and we know what's going, then yeah, it'll be that, right? Because if they've got a really big Christmas release coming up, they might not want to compete, and I get that. But yeah, 323 will set the tone for CitizenCon Energy. It's such an important patch, says Zavith. Yeah, 100%. There's a lot. Speaking of, that will take us quite nicely into our next segment. You can see it flashing away as I'm sat here talking. Let's go and have a look. So then, the roadmap roundup. This came out this week with some surprise and not so surprise announcements. Does everyone know about the animals now? Are we there for? We know about the Copion, which is the the kind of dog or lion or big cat style animal that we've seen. There's the Maroc, which is that style animal that we've seen, and then a creature hunting mission, which is locate, kill, and retrieve valuable parts of creatures roaming the environment. So yeah, hunting / butchery confirmed. It's only so long now until we get that most anticipated of updates, fishing. But yeah, So that's happened. We got the animals. If anyone hasn't seen the animals, I can go find the video, or someone can link it to me. But yes, I saw a leak for the Copian attacking citizens at ASOP terminals. That's kind of the Copian seems like a small troll name from CIG. Was it April 1st that came out? Was that what that was? Did I just get jebaited massively? I bet I did. I just got jebaited, didn't I? That's how that works. You've been jebaited. You've been jebaited. No, it can't be because April 3rd, right? Unless that's what the video was. But yeah, let's have a look. Start Citizen. Here we go. Let's see if I can find that video for you now. Good lord, that's taking a while. Sorry about this. This is like, just talk quietly amongst yourselves. I'll find it. Um, there we go. Found it. Found it. Well, I found the page. Ugh. So yeah, there's a video somewhere. Link it if you can. Yeah, that. But it's out there somewhere. It exists. So yeah, basically it's a bird and a lion, big cat looking thing, facing off against each other. So there's that, right? Astronaut, good evening, bud. Good to see you. They do have a boat in Squadron 42, so fishing must be real. Yeah, absolutely. Any grenades makes fishing real. Fishing just needs rope tech for the invisible fishing line. Rope tech. Oh god. Fishing tractor beam. Just tractor beaming fish out of the sea and be like, yeah, yoink, mine. We actually need a drink called Copium sold at in-game bars. Yeah, absolutely. Cruz Lux Copium edition. If they don't, I'm going to be very upset. I mean, maybe that's it, right? Maybe in the days of like meta stuff and like Amazon Prime drinks and whatever else, maybe that's what people need. There's your multi-million-pound. Because copium obviously isn't just a Star Citizen thing. Copium's an internet thing. So I 100% think you could get copium. Although someone's probably trademarked it already, right? Because people are shitbags like that. Yeah. And then the big one, as far as I'm concerned, um, added to release view for a 323. Okay, a point patch, not the original or not the initial. Vehicle modularity. Okay, and the Retaliator Gold Pass, because everything at the moment looks to be based around the Retaliator, which is good. A, because I have a Retaliator, so yay, review video incoming. But also that the Retaliator's been around for a long time. It needs that. So we're going to get torpedo and cargo rooms initially, with more to come. It says, and they'll be adding additional vehicles to the modularity as well, which will bring all that together for us. Arcade Alchemist says, I just want to turn up with a ticket and find out how long it takes for them to realise I'm a Spectrum Renegade, says Arcade Alchemist. They will have you scanned. As you come in, mate, the security will be all over you, and you'll end up in Clash. It won't be pretty. Can the copiums board your ship if you leave the ramp open, and then you can drop them off in an armistice zone asking for a friend? Dear God. Like, yeah, this is gonna be gnarly. Yeah, with you, socially confused. The Retaliator interior is not great. I do like the fact that it's a little bit cramped because to me, it's got that really big World War II American bomber vibes, but it absolutely needs reworking 100%. Um, you know, the interesting thing here is is this version of modularity going to be anything more than calling out different versions from the ASOP terminal, just like you do now, right? So if you call out, let's pick out, I don't know, pick a modular ship that's already in game, pick out something like the Avenger, right? So the difference between the Warlock and the Titan and that sort of stuff. You just call out different versions. Is that going to be this version, or are they actually going to be swapping? We don't know. It'll be coming soon. Yeah. Uh, Hopefully it makes it. Um, you know, and we get some sort of something more than just vehicles being called out of the ASOP terminals, because that's pretty much what we've got now, right? Although I suppose you can have one ship and then call out multiple versions of it. But yeah. Copium IPA by Malmo Brewing Co. Damn. Oofed. Exactly. Hope we get to store our ship in the hangar and order a module change with a cost and timer. Yeah, 100%. And that's going to be the key difference, isn't it? Right, for us, is that once you go and buy, say, a Retaliator in game, you can then buy the module in game. You don't need to buy the Retaliator base and the Retaliator bomber and everything else, because of course there's only the Retaliator bomber. So even if you buy the base, you get the bomber as a loaner for real money, and then there's just the bomber in game. So if you can even buy it at all at this point. I can't remember. Good point. Is there going to be a mechanic to remove the modules? So socially confused. Yeah, exactly that. But how does that work? What does that mechanic look like? That's kind of key for us, right? But yeah, I mean, this is one of these really weird things. It's just physicalized the elevator return your ships like Death Stranding does, just with without the fixed locked cameras. Cousins Crows is the shop to change modules? Question mark. No, I think it's going to be more like Arcade Alchemist says, in that it's going to be done at station or wherever your hangar is. I'm guessing the tally's base price will increase to 165, 175. Possibly it might go up with that. That's a good point, actually. I hadn't considered that, Ninja. I hadn't considered the possibility of a price increase. It would be nice if they don't. You know, as a kind of gesture of not screwing us over. It's not like everyone's got masses of expendable income right now, especially with what's going on. So it would be really nice if they just kind of kept it where it was, but I'm not hopeful. But yeah, it's weird because modularity is one of those features that we've been promised for time immemorial. Right? It's the idea of persistence, and then all of a sudden you see persistence in the game, and it's very cool. Although we all get used to it very quickly. The whole idea of modularity, of ships being able to switch out parts of themselves to to suit a different purpose. We've talked about it so much, and it's been in the game, or it's been in the works, in the planning for so long. You almost forget that it was actually coming. It's like part of that thing. Oh yeah, modularity. Oh crap, it's actually going to be in game. So yeah, that's going to be really cool. It would be cool if you had to go to certain shops. I'm sure you will for the modules themselves, and maybe for the first time switching them in. Yeah, 100%. The question is, can you ship the modules to different locations not using the ship? And obviously, you're not going to get that with this version, right? Because this is, as Avi said, this is like tier 0.1 of modularity. But if I go and buy a cargo module from somewhere, can I take that module to somewhere else? Or do I have to fly the Retaliator there with no module in, or just like a placeholder module or whatever, and then swap them out and then take it? Because then what happens with the other module? Doesn't that tie you to a certain location? I don't know. Or maybe you just buy it and it becomes deliverable like everything else. Meh. No clue. But yeah, Mad Cat modules will come out right before the Endeavour. Um, yeah. So yeah, the cat. I've seen lots of people saying that, they haven't said the cat's not modular for a while. I know if Can or Edison is here, they will very quickly pipe up with that. That it hasn't been said for a while now that the cat will be modular. But also, I don't know. I would like to think that it's still going to be, because I think they've got some really cool ideas for the module. They've got some really cool ideas for what could go on with the cat. Things like the the chop shop and the drugs lab and all those sorts of criminal stuff that you would just expect from Drake, to go into that aren't going to be modules for a lot of other ships. You know, maybe you'll get it for things like the Kraken, maybe. But yeah, so I think it's going to be a long time down the line. But obviously, there's also the modules you're going to get them for the Carrack. There are so many ships that are going to have modules, and of course, we've got other ships that have been sold individually that are in effect were like the Avenger, Titan, Warlock, that are in effect a modular ship, but sold as two different versions. So whether they keep that now, or whether they realise that they might piss people off by making them the same version of the ship, although people have paid more real money for one than the other, don't know. It's a possible, right? Broadside Cat is best cat, yeah. Cat full with 40 guys with rail guns is best cat. Dead. Cat needs a rework to bring it up to the Corsair standard. Yeah, everything's going to need a rework, and I think, you know, people need to. And I'm not saying this about you guys, but, you know, for the lurkers and for anyone else, and for people who aren't sure but didn't want to ask, Gold Pass, the gold standard, is a point in time. It's not a statement that a ship is complete. It's not a statement that a ship won't change, because the Gladius has been brought up to gold standards numerous times. In fact, the Gladius is the gold standard ship, right? Because it's going to feature so heavily in Squadron 42. It's where they put all those features into. So the Gladius has constantly been gold standarded. That's why we got, you know, the external storage, the armor storage, the weapon storage, the component bays, all that sort of stuff have always come to the Gladius very, very quickly. You know, and then other ships, we see the ships with controllable door panels. Then you've got things like the Sulen that's got different lighting states, interior, and so on and so forth. This is going to come to all ships eventually, but Gold Pass is just a point in time. So, you know, later on when you're going to have ships with controllable doors, like the engineering stuff, the engineering gameplay, ships are going to have to be brought up to that standard. So that'll be them at gold standard again, and so on and so forth. So gold standard doesn't mean the Retaliator won't change. So the most important thing we can do is when the Retaliator lands with this gold standard in 23 point whatever, that we feed that back if we don't like it, but we do it in a constructive way, because as we see, the negative stuff just gets shut down on Spectrum. Nobody wants to know anything about it. The F7A Mark II isn't at gold standard because it's got no components. 100%. Exactly that. And I don't think it was ever going to be with master modes coming out. It was just going to get a cut and paste kind of flight model as well, so that would stop it from being at gold standard. But yeah, so that, you know, because why would you put all work into a unique flight model for the or unique set of handling characteristics within the current flight model if we're literally about to change it? Put all the work into that and just give it some cut and paste characteristics at the moment. So yeah. That kind of makes sense, right? Because otherwise it's just wasted effort. Putting a bunch of effort into something you know is going to get replaced in a patch. No point. So yeah, some really nice features going into that one. I'm just going to have a look at the roadmap now, just to see what's on there. Within the release view, he says, clicking on the release view. Wakey. Every ship's going to have to be completely overhauled when Maelstrom comes out, every single one. Yeah, absolutely. So every ship will get a pass with that. There are some ships like the Connie who are going to need a complete rehaul when Maelstrom is released, when Connie fits into the Maelstrom system. So for those that don't know, Maelstrom is the system of breaking ships apart. So when we saw the video at CitizenCon of the Gladius coming down and hitting the water and breaking into recognizable parts, that's Maelstrom, right? The problem with the Connie is the Connie isn't realistic at the moment, and what I mean by that is, of course, it's not realistic. It's a virtual ship, but the walls are exceptionally thin on it. If you go through the airlock hatches on the side, the docking ports either side of the vehicle bay, you'll notice that the walls are not thin at all. So when you broke it up, it would be like, oh look, the metal on this is thinner than my finger. So yeah, there's lots of work that's going to have to go into those ships. And a new cockpit, says Mad Teapot. Yeah, they can certainly do with some of the struts being fixed. and maybe polarizing the glass as well, because the amount of times I fly around in the Connie and just sit there getting dazzled by the sunlight. But yeah, so 323. Let's have a look at. Let's open everything up and see what they've got in here. 323 is going to be a massive quality of life improvement, so significant that I think it's genuinely going to feel like we're playing a slightly different game. So we've got the character customizer, that's in, that's done. There's nothing that's going to stop that now. That is committed. We've got distribution centers, which are the locations. Multiple of these around Stanton, all belonging to different orgs. And these are going to be huge gameplay locations. You could be there on PvE when PvP stuff happens. You could be there with a friendly faction, someone else arrives and it's hostile to them, and so on and so on. Okay. There's the Copian, which is this thing. Horn here, I don't know if you can see that because I don't. It's in black and white, I guess, because it's not committed. But it's facing kind of this way. Yeah. So you've got right above me here, you've got the horn, okay, on its nose, and then you've got ears, and then like a spined back and a tail. Okay. Travel in packs. So apparently, if you find them on their own, they're a bit like hyenas or coyotes. They won't necessarily go for adults on their own. You put them in a pack, they become very, very dangerous. So that's when we're going to have to be really careful about fighting these things. So can't wait to see videos of people start getting downed by packs of Copians. The Maroks, yeah, these things. That was the video that we saw of the woman screaming, very much looked like Jurassic Park: Fallen Kingdom, where she's, and behind her you can see all of the birds. These things, passive, which is interesting. So they might well fight Copians and so on and so forth, but they're not going to interact with us. They're just going to be things that we go down. Cliff races. So Citizen Scott. Yeah, basically your avatar things, whatever they're called. Is the Gladius the one ship that's kept at latest text? Pretty much socially, yeah. That's pretty much where we're going with it. So the Gladius, because it features so heavily in Squadron 42, needs to be the thing that's kept most current. So you may well have like a new release ship, like the Sulan's got different light states within it. The button that changes from night to day, and I think it's got emergency lighting. You can't do that in the Gladius. You might not get that in the Gladius, right? But yeah, that's going to happen. So yes, the Gladius often has most of the things immediately or very soon after they're added. Gladius is getting constant. The gold standards are so constant they don't even go into the planning document anymore. Tentative, says Citizen Scott. Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Garces says, sorry, Kevin, if I don't know Garces. I'm sorry, mate, if I'm butchering that. I'll stop saying it now. After everything announced, Star Citizen needs better graphic technology, more physical geometry and simulations, and complete the cities with everything that cities like Cyberpunk and movies have. So interestingly, I've literally just started playing Cyberpunk. I wanted to leave it because I so wanted to like the game. I don't normally buy things on hype. He says, as a Star Citizen content creator, oops, I made a mistake. There's only really 3 games I've bought on hype. 2 one I'm really pleased with, 1 I'm disappointed with, 1 is the jury's out. This is the game where the jury's out, but if I'm being honest, I've had so much fun in here with you guys, with the community games, by myself, whatever, that actually it's paid for itself, even with the ridiculous amount of money I've spent on it. And I know I'm not nowhere near some other people, right? Ridiculous from my point of view. Let's just leave it at that. The game that I really liked, I bought both of them before they came out, was Total War Warhammer and Total War Warhammer 2. I got the collector's editions, do not regret, love those games to death. They are brilliant. I really, really enjoyed them. And the game that I was disappointed with, which I showed off to you guys a little while ago, which was Starfield. And whilst I enjoyed it, I'm not yet in the Unity. I'm not yet in a new game mode. I played a lot, but I'm not yet on that. Yeah, it's you know, it's it's a good game, but again, it's a good lesson in why you don't buy on hype. I say good game. I enjoyed it, but it's not one you buy on hype. So yeah, yeah, I did buy Helldivers, but I bought it about 2.5 weeks after its release, so I had enough time to kind of watch it happen. So I did want to do the same with Cyberpunk, and I was playing Cyberpunk with someone in chat today in Discord, and I was streaming to her, and I made exactly the comment you made, Kevin, which is Star Citizen cities need to feel like this. They need to feel like they're alive. And she said everything feels like cardboard placeholder stuff in our cities. Absolutely 100%. So I'm with you there 100%. Um, I think we need to get to the stage where we can go land in the streets and we can go land in areas like that, right? And maybe there's nothing there for us to do initially, but the main limiting factor with all that geometry stuff has been what the servers can handle. Because you can have one incredibly detailed city, but you can't extrapolate that out to 4 planets, however many moons, asteroids, because the server just can't handle that much data. Now that we've got server meshing so painfully close, if server meshing works the way that they've been showing to us, and it has been working, then they can effectively make each city its own server, with us able to transfer seamlessly between the world around it and the city itself. There is absolutely no reason. Imagine the entity count for the entirety of Stanton being allocated to one city. That's exactly what you're talking about. So I agree with you 100% what you're saying needs to happen. I don't know if the reason for that is graphics. I think it's server load. Because if you've got all that geometry, then the game has to monitor it. So yeah, I think it's that. Yes, you're going to have a lot of stuff to render as well, but the key thing first is to get it in there and working, and then you can think about thrashing your 4090 to death over it. But yeah, 100%. Socially Confused says, I started a normal human run in Cyberpunk, no cybernetics, and no HUD. Interesting. So I started Cyberpunk on hard, and I've been getting my backside kicked on occasion, raging a little bit as to why after my 4th headshot they still haven't gone down, but that's life. But yeah, I'm actually really enjoying it. I managed to do the whole mission to go and get the thing from the dude in the tower, if you know what I'm talking about, with Jackie. I went and did all that and managed to stealth my way out of the hotel completely up until it, you know, or up until the parking lot, and then there's no stealthing your way through that. You just had to run and jump out of there. So yeah, that was good. Helldivers is great, says Avi. Cyberpunk is pretty good now. Starfield really was just kind of meh. Agreed 100%. Starfield has fallen foul like every single other big release recently. Too much promised, too little time. Um, you know, No Man's Sky had it. They've now pulled that around. No Man's Sky, I don't care what anyone says, No Man's Sky is a good game now. It was an absolute train wreck when it got released. Why? Because Hello Games had their feet held over the fire to release it far sooner than it was ready. And Hello Games have done exactly what they should have done, which is instead of just abandoning it and moved on to other work, Cyberpunk, they are sticking with it until it is exactly the game that they want. Whereas the CD Projekt Red are already working on Witcher 4. So yeah, I'd love it if we got a few highways to drive on at least, but even then I don't expect that to happen since they said it's just not in their vision. Yeah, I think one of the interesting things with the cities is that they can just keep adding to it when they want to. You know, just if they can make the city like New Babbage's, so you can go and land in it, that works fine. And then they add other bits later on, because when you think about the amount of space you're going to need for everyone to have an apartment that is their own, all those sorts of things, that in itself necessitates a larger area than we currently have in those landing zones, right? So they are going to have to get bigger by design. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. ArcCorp Rewalk 2.0 Redux could be a game changer if done right. Citizen 100%. If the ArcCorp rework does to ArcCorp, to Area 18 and the rest of the planet what the Lawville rework did to Hurston, holy shit, it's going to be amazing. Because that was a really impressive. Lawville went from an absolute eyesore to the prettiest eyesore I've ever seen. It still looks like an absolute hellhole, but it's a very pretty hellhole, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so that's it. At this point, it's not really spoilers. It is for me, AV, because like I'm only playing it through the first time, so no spoilers. The issue probably would be design and resource usage. All the cities and planets are different and expected to change clean to dirty and such. Yeah, 100%. It would probably be easier to give ArcCorp a new second major landing zone, start with a blank canvas. Possibly, yeah, 100%. Couldn't finish Starfield, says Socially. I wanted to love that game, but it fell flat. Yeah. And I persevered with Starfield much longer than I was enjoying it. And I found a bit of a second life. We did a stream where I was trying to build a Perseus in the shipbuilder, because Perseus, right? Why wouldn't I? But I fell out of love with it, like you guys. I just couldn't love it for that. And Hello Games did it for free, says Teapot. Hello Games have got should have mad respect for what they did after the release of No Man's Sky. Because it's hard when you're in a situation like that. When you have investors, you don't have all the decisions. You do not make all the decisions. They write that shit into their contracts. Most investors are not stupid. They will write stuff like that into their contracts, and they will be able to hold publishers to account. Hello Games just were a victim of money grubbing blur. But to be fair to them, was it Sean and everyone else at Hello Games? I think it's Sean. Sorry if it isn't. Yeah, just not good. Kevin says, well, I mean, SC needs expert world designers and developers, landscapers, environment artists. Environments make the terrain more varied and similar to reality. Tropical jungles, islands, deserts, rocks, cliffs, forests, materials. Yeah, which is really interesting you say that, because I've seen something about Planet Tech V5, so it's coming, right? Maybe not quite what you're describing. Maybe it is. Don't know. But yeah, that's the idea. And this is the beautiful thing, is that any time your environment artists have nothing to do, any time you've got a new guy who can't be trusted, or a new girl, to go and do their own stuff, you just go, okay, here is the Hurston environment pack. Make me a new tree. And if it's good enough, it goes in the environment pack, and they scatter it, and they can just keep doing that, right? They did the same at Games Workshop with miniature designers, and they get them to sculpt an old model and give it a new look. And some of them have been good enough. They've actually come out and said this when they released them. They said, these models, we were never going to release them, so it's not part of a codex, it's not part of a new army, it's not this, that, and the other. It's just an update to an old model. We do this with our new designers, but these we thought were so good we wanted to sell them because they're up to scratch. And that was where the old Legion of the Damned came from. So yeah, that's kind of cool, right? So there's loads of things that they can do, and just keep adding. And this is why everything I keep saying to people, there's going to be no ending tier, right? For as long as this game keeps going, we're going to get tier this and tier that. It's a live service game. They're just going to keep updating it till they're either done or they're out of money, right? And they're never going to be done. So until the server's shut down, they're going to keep updating it. And they've already said this. Once they consider themselves to release, they're still going to release every 3 months. So yeah. But 100%, again, we had this conversation with Cyberpunk. I was like, they just need to poach some people from CD Projekt Red and Rockstar who were involved in building Los Santos, who were involved in building the Witcher Realms, who were involved with building Night City. They need to grab those people and throw them into Star Citizen, right? But again, hopefully now they will do that now that server meshing is coming online. Once they know they can free up the resources for the cities, that's it. But I do think and I still say this, I still think they did a fantastic job with Horizon. I still think Horizon is just a breathtaking location. Really, really good. Now what they need, and I think this is what you're getting at as well, Kevin. Correct me if I'm wrong. You when you go to all the other platforms, they then just become carbon copies. There's no walking into an area and going, this is a bit more upmarket, or this is a bit more slum, or this is a bit more. You've kind of got the industrial feel with the Providence platform, but even then, it doesn't feel that well defined. So yeah, I see your comment about ArtStation. Yeah, and I get what you mean, right? But again, they're working on so many other things in the background that hopefully now that people are coming across from Squadron 42, they'll start to put that in progress or into production. And I think Squadron 42 will give us a really good hint at where they're going with that because of the locations we'll see in that game. So hopefully, if we start to see stuff on that, and there's a lot of life and it feels living like the other places you talk, like Red Dead and all that sort of stuff, then hopefully that'll be a good sign. If not, maybe we need to, push for that. And I would have no problem with that whatsoever. Not sure if they will, says AV. Most of the modders news I saw said they weren't interested, was too difficult and not good enough to work with. I see what you mean with Starfield. Yeah, because of the way it loads the areas. It's something I forget. I saw the phrase for it, but it's the way it loads an area. Like you can't get too far from your ship, not because of any simple thing. You just can't go that far from your ship because the game doesn't work like that. So yeah, I know what you're meaning, Evie. It was the first Bethesda game I didn't bother with side missions or replay. I just finished it once and didn't care for it anymore. Nope, fair enough. I can agree that the shipbuilding was the best part of the game and it was still meh. Yeah, it's unfortunate. When do I think 323 will go live, Janos? I'm hoping by the end of the month. It's in Evo Carty, right? So I'm hoping by the end of the month. If it's any further out than the middle of May, I think they've done themselves a disservice. It was obviously supposed to be out Q1. That's never going to happen with everything that can cram into it. But yeah, we'll see. Star Citizen Gala 1 is already wildly massive and varied and detailed. I don't know what else you want, to be honest. Yeah, I think, I think they can certainly, with everything that they're doing now, with all, and this is kind of what people have been saying. When people keep saying that it's copium or hopium or whatever else, all these systems that they're putting in, like the weathering system, right? And these what they call masks that go over the textures to make things look more snowed over, like the wear that you get. I don't know if anyone's seen this now. I saw some really good photos of it or screenshots. If you wear the same suit of armor for a while, it starts to scratch up. It starts to look blemished. It starts to gunk up, right? Those masks, the procedure for them can go over the top of stuff that already exists. So by putting that in place as this whole system by itself takes an awful lot of time and gets a lot of people whinging about why isn't this game make game ready 12 years and all that nonsense, right? But what it then enables them to do is add loads of new cities, and all they've got to do is add the masking effects because the system already works, rather than having to create an entire new city and then create everything bespoke to go over the top. They just create new textures and new masks to go over the top of what's already there. And it will speed things up massively. So there's that. If they release 383 too early, we'll get another 318 fiasco. Best to let it cook, even though it smells so delicious. I'm hungry now. Thanks, Zavith. Just talking about food the whole time, you monster. But yes, 100%. I don't think we can get another 318 with this one. I don't think the tech is that buried in it. We'll have a look at that in a second, right? But yeah, 100%. Real talk, I see May release with some features dropped off for 323.1 in June, July. Yeah, 100%, mate. It's partially an Evo and very few items are committed, and PTU is a different beast. Live even more different. Careful with expectations, just saying. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to pin my colours to the mast somewhere, and that would be it. I guess. This is certainly not a promise, obviously, because I don't work for them. But that would be it. Replication layer separation. Yeah, there is that too. But at the end of the day, if that doesn't work, it doesn't need to go over the top. It's not rebuilding everything. Yeah, possibly, possibly. But then again, it might be that gets bumped back, right? It gets bumped back to a point patch. It might not be that bit that goes in. And they might decide if they've got everything else ready and they're waiting on the replication layer, it might be that bit that gets shunted. Don't know. Again, I think Invictus says Teapot, which is June time, May, isn't it? End of May. So yeah, very possibly. FPS loot screens going in looks good. New missions, creature hunting. They're in now. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty sizable thing in front of us. That's what the size of a large dog or a wolf. Yeah, that's pretty sizable. Item banks. Yeah, which is retrieve and store items at multiple locations. That's what we saw with the. It was like the kiosk where you would go rather than getting something in your cargo elevator. You could get just rather than having to go all the way into a hangar and then all the way out just to gear up. If you were going to go on someone else's ship, you can go and just grab some ammo and weapon and armor and whatever else you needed, gear yourself up without having to go in. So there's that. Some Marina Commander stuff, including in experimental mode the engineering stuff, which is kind of cool. We're going to get Gravlev vehicles doing a race. We're going to get lobbies, and then the hangars. Massimo Verona is a clear example. He's one of the best environmental artists. He has a gallery and art station and is available. He's so good that NVIDIA is looking for him to teach. Yeah, I think the problem with stuff like that is if you get someone that is that famous, the amount of money, and of course, if they're an environmental artist, you still need to code it. So they're still generating work for everyone else. You'll need a team to go and support that, and that might be too much money. But that doesn't mean that they can't go. I'm certainly not saying they can't go and get better talent for it. They absolutely can, and I think one of the best ways is for them to advertise specifically for that and look at people coming from studios with a really good reputation in that. And I'm talking Rockstar and CD Projekt Red. I think they're incredible. Night City is mad. One of the things I've enjoyed so much about Cyberpunk is the whole things are happening and you're no part of it, and it wants no part of you. There are fights and there are other things going on, and you're just a part. All of a sudden you're just here shooting at some random part of the map, and people are just knocking snot out of each other. It's got nothing to do with you. You didn't trigger anything. It's them doing it, and that sort of stuff is really, really cool. If they can do that with like police patrols on Hearst, and if they can do that with yuppies at Microtech, and if you can get kind of street gangs and that sort of stuff down at ArtCorp, that sort of stuff would be very, very cool, right? Yeah, absolutely. Mobileglass being reworked. There was obviously the Inside Star Citizen this week that had the map and the apps and the reworked Mobileglass, all of which look a lot better. The map cannot come soon enough. From trying to do all the Overdrive Initiative stuff this year or this week, the map has just been bane of my existence. The sooner that thing can go away, the better. Then we've got cargo hauling, which is really cool because cargo hauling, you're not buying the cargo, you're being paid to ship stuff. So you go to a location, you pick up cargo, you take it somewhere else, you drop it off, and you're paid a fee for moving it rather than owning the cargo itself. Remains to be seen what happens if you try and go and flog it yourself. I'd imagine you get a pretty decent crime stat. Blockade Runner, which is coming, which is the updated Ninetales lockdown. That's been changed now to all sorts of different stuff, again using the cargo elevators and stuff like that. Visor lens and HUD rework, great. Player interaction experience, lots of stuff going on there, like the button that you click to pick stuff up, and being able to set a default action for stuff. So being able to pick it up, being able to store it. If you see food on the floor or whatever, you can just go direct to store. Same with gems. So when you're mining stuff, you can set it when it all breaks apart, just store as one action. So you literally just F and it stores it, F and it stores it. And hopefully it doesn't pick it up 3 times before you can do anything with it. You know what I mean, right? EVA Tier 2, smoother controls. So we've got traversal. We don't have push-pull yet or any of that kind of manual traversal. That's not coming with this one. that's going to come at a later date. But even so, now with soft def, EVA can't come quick enough because the amount of times you spend bouncing around your ship trying to get out before you get blown to pieces. Yeah. Yeah, man, Cyberpunk is maybe the best game world ever. I spent 200 plus hours on my first playthrough, and most of that was driving around listening to music and not helping innocent people. Scott, why does it not surprise me that you were not helping innocent people? I can't even, yeah, I surprised. So, yeah. Actually, the guy seems like he doesn't have a job. Environmental artists are often underrated. Some companies are just starting to take them on because, sorry, I can't read that last bit. Can I move that? No, that's just really annoying that it sits there over the top of that word. I don't know what that word is because they discover that such detailed environments. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe they will, maybe they won't, right? A lot of that will depend on like whether his artwork aligns with Chris. I think, to be honest, they can headhunt people to be sure, but it will probably be whoever wants to come and work for the project because that's the key thing, right? Is people come to you wanting to do that stuff. Has anyone messaged um, Massimo and pointed him at Star Citizen? Has anyone tried to get that news through to him and see if it's something he would take up? Has he got like SCR on his profile? Because if he has, that might be a really good thing to say to him, and maybe he'll go that route. I don't know. But yeah, it's role play, says Scott. Yeah, no, it's not. Stop lying. Reputation hostility is already committed. That's the if you're friendly with one faction and your buddy's not, they're going to react to you differently than they are to them. So that's kind of cool. Starman, yeah, we've already talked about that one. And freight elevators, and then vehicles. We've got vehicle modularity, Aegis Retaliator, and master modes. Oh god, there's so much of a talk about master modes at the minute. Okay, all I'm gonna say on master modes at the moment is, at the moment, the test bed is half of the conversation, and I do not disagree that there are problems, and I 100% agree that it does not feel like they have arrived at their final iteration of it. It still feels like a work in progress. Maximum speeds, I think, are probably the biggest issue at the moment. But the other thing I will say to people is that we're only seeing half the fight at the moment. In Arena Commander, you are already within weapons range of the enemy, right? It's very much like World of Warships. You are in a confined map, you cannot break away, and what it robs you of is all of the strategic posturing and cutting people off and isolating them and choosing the right moment that you can have in the game that isn't available in Arena Commander because you just start within weapons range of your opponent practically, right? So, and you can't change out of SCM. I don't think. Can you change out of into nav mode at Arena Commander now? You couldn't the last time I played it. So yeah, so people need to take it as a whole picture, I think. But that's not saying that it's not great. Jay Grizz, good to see you, bud. Says why most people fixed on the live in the letter from the chair and acting like it will be soon when there's clearly the world beta before 1.0 live. Yeah, so good question, well asked. I think there's something in the language that has certainly made me feel like they're moving rapidly on things, or they're trying to. Because my gut reaction when I read it was, and I know this sounds daft for a game that's been in 12 years, been going 12 years, is don't rush it. And what I mean by rush is this: before anyone flips out and lambasts me in chat, here's what I mean by rushing something. Let's have a look. Pick any year on here. Pick any year, and total up the number of locations, the number of gameplay loops, and the number of ships and everything else that has been added in any single year. Right? Whatever that is, maybe 2 big locations and 2 gameplay loops. Although I doubt it with the 2 gameplay loops. Right? So okay. So at the moment we know that they can add up to 2 gameplay loops a year. Now let's look at every gameplay loop that we have. Right? We have data running, exploration, science. We've got boarding, everything else that goes into that I've missed, right? A ton of stuff, right? How many is that? right? And you start adding everything else to that list, because I know I've missed a bunch and loads of people in there going, hacking, yeah, you've got refining gameplay, you've got repair, rearm, refuel, the refuel's kind of there. You've got the rest, you've got fuel siphoning from salvage, you've got all these other things that need to happen, right? You've got drones need adding, engineering needs adding, communications need massively updating, um, all that sort of stuff. Base building, right? All those things. That's what I mean by don't rush it. And what I mean by don't rush it is, if I said to you they were going to do 4 gameplay loops a year, you'd probably call me mad, right? Okay, so let's say 3. 3 gameplay loops a year. Now take how many gameplay loops we've just added, divide that by 3, that's how many years we've got. This isn't hard. The only question that remains now is, with the massive influx of people from Squadron 42 over to Star Citizen, how many gameplay loops can they actually manage now that they can throw loads more devs at stuff? That's the real question. Because locations, they'll add more systems as we go. Gameplay like the Reliant Mako, is it, that has the camera, like the journalist ship, right? That's going to get added miles down the line, if at all. Gameplay for that's nonsense, right? That's going to get added a long time out. And all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so there's loads armor, control surfaces, exactly, ninja, all that sort of stuff. So that, and that's why I mean don't rush it, is because actually, if you look at the depth that they've added to mining, that depth needs to be fishing. Yeah, exactly, Maya. The most important game loop, obviously. But crafting. Where's that? Because they've talked about it multiple times now. Crafting, survival crafting. Crashing somewhere and having to build yourself a shelter and a fire to keep warm. That stuff's going to have to come, right? So yeah, being able to cook stuff, so poisonous stuff becomes non-poisonous. Yeah, washing. Yeah, thanks, Teapot. I'm not going to say that out loud, but you're not wrong, dude. So yeah, yeah, all that sort of stuff, right? So they've got all that to add, and that's what I mean by don't rush it. Is because if you look at the depth that's being added to cargo, that has been added to mining, that is now going into things like salvage and all that sort of stuff, the components, all that repair, blah 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 blah. All of those need that same level of depth to make this game reasonable, to make this game what we were promised. So that, right. So yeah, it's going to take a while. I don't know why. I think it's because people don't look at the big picture with the games. They look at traditional development and they go, oh, well, this must be how it works for everything. Not so much. Okay. Yeah, cool. Shady Face says, things don't feel like they're speeding up because Squadron 42 is done and many features there are getting ported over, but there's so much that needs to be done. Yeah, 100%. And this is what we're talking about, Shady Face, with the letter from the chairman about Chris Roberts saying, we're going to get things to release, and that will be when we stop talking about this game being an alpha or whatever else. And Grizz was just asking that question there about beta needs to happen first and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, 100%. I think people are just seizing on it, and they're so hungry for anything approaching a release date that they're just jumping on it without really thinking. Or if they are thinking, they're thinking the wrong thing. I think scouting will come to life once we set up location markers with a new map. Yep, 100%. These Squadron 42 features don't even count. We won't know if they've actually increased pace until the end of the year at soonest. Agreed. It's easy to port this stuff across. The trick is going to be making that transition from porting this stuff over to getting stuff going. And what I foresee is 323 into 324. 324 might be light again because they've hit all the easy stuff. And now they're getting to grips with the harder stuff. And of course, harder means more delays and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's very, very possible going that way. So yeah, don't be surprised if that happens. I think if we can foresee it, right, it's pretty obvious that it's gonna play out that way. I want more org features next. That's another loop that needs adding, says Janos. The game's about community, and currently there is no game working together through org, bank, or shared space. Nope, agreed. Senef says, I wonder what the lower levels of UGFs are that they won't talk about. They will about that CitizenCon, I bet. Yeah, they did a little bit. Back when they were calling the distribution centers, at the UGFs, right? And they showed us a little bit of tunnels, and they showed some that were still working, some that were overgrown. This was a while back. This is one of the digital only ones, maybe when they showed Pyro. But yeah, there's other stuff coming. Those distribution centers, like everything else, are just going to continue to get iterated on all the way through. If CIG is adding going toilet gameplay, then the toilet should have a micro refinery to turn my poop into spaceship fuel. Brown fuel, really? After green propulsion, you want to go brown? Nice. You're on your own on that one, bud. I'm not drinking the coffee on your ship, says Mad Teapot. Yeah, there's great lines in Red Dwarf for anyone who remembers watching that. It was a UK space comedy series, and they used to talk about the wine being from like 2943 urine recyc. Yeah, and hopefully someone spat their drunk out at that, because yeah, that's just not a nice thought, is it? But yeah, so yeah, a couple of features are already in, and then we got the volumetric clouds, which they told us would already be in 323, but they're obviously having a problem because it's not yet committed. So they told us at CitizenCon that it was going to be in 323, and it's still not committed yet. So I think they're having a couple of issues there, which is no surprise. Image upscaling, yeah, great. And the replication layer update, separating the replication layer from the game server. And this is what Scott, and sorry, I forget who else said it earlier, is the key bit of game tech that's coming with this, to prepare for a server meshed environment. And then hopefully, I mean, the real question is that they said they wanted a end of quarter two release for Pyro. And I think, given the fact that we're already in April and we're not yet in the test environment, we're still at Evo Kati, I think you can push that back to at least July, if it stays on track for that at all. I'm hoping that they kind of get it out before CitizenCon, and the reason I say that is we've had a number of CitizenCons now, which are all or in part about Pyro. We get it. Pyro's going to be exciting, but move on. That's it. It should have been there to make more of CitizenCon about Pyro. I think is doing people a disservice. We know, we get it. Show us some of the updates of the cool stuff that's not in, but move on and make this CitizenCon about whatever you're going to make it about. But yeah, I want a distribution center that's abandoned and can be repaired, like an org facility almost. That'd be cool. Citizens got one studio spent 12 years making 2 games. That's an average of 6 dev years per game, which is nothing compared to most modern games. Fair assessment. Yeah, Scott. Like 100% on the money, bud. Exactly that. And the other thing is what people keep missing. I'm just going to go back to transition so I can 100% on the money. And I just want to show some people this bit, right? Okay, these are 2 AAA games that aim to be at the top end of their. I'm going to go white in a second. Watch this. But yeah, 100% that. There you go. Ta-da! So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the financials, the most recent financials they did from Cloud Imperium's website. Okay, because I want to show you something off of this. So yes, 6 years per game, with a restart somewhere in the middle, so it's less than that because they restarted back in 2016, so that's 8 years, so 4 years per game now. You know, because yes, they restarted Star Citizen, but if we don't think that's knocking onto Squadron 42, that's that, right? And here's the other thing that I want to show you about this, right? Is this bit. So this is why I'm suddenly white, because this is white. Okay, headcount analysis. Okay, by discipline. So it's this bottom one here we want to look at. Okay, the development is the darker shade down here, and you probably can't see that. I'll zoom in a little bit. Hopefully you can see it now. Okay, but look at these numbers here. So in 2013 there were 10 devs. Sorry, 2012 there were 10 devs, right? 13 staff, but it's the dark color here that we're looking at, so the lowest figure. 43 in 2013, 155 in 2014. Okay, they broke 500 devs only in 2020. That's not very big for a studio. By comparison, yeah, if you go and look at Rockstar have a number of studios. One of their studios is dedicated solely to maintaining their game engine, right? So it doesn't work on the games, it maintains the game engine, it's constantly updating it, adding new tech, blah, 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 blah. Just keeping it a current, very impressive game engine. That's the game engine that powers Red Dead 2. That's the game engine that powers Grand Theft Auto 5. That's going to power Grand Theft Auto 6, or is in the process of powering Grand Theft Auto 6, all that sort of stuff. That studio by itself has a permanent staff, not contracted, permanent staff of 600 people. Right? Only in 2022 did CIG break 600 people across 2 games, and they're building an MMO. Not a game with multiplayer, an MMO. So yeah, and this is why it's taking so long, right? Because they're not just building a single player and a multiplayer in a way that no one's ever seen before. They were also building from scratch a game studio, right? When they started out, they were working out of Chris Roberts' basement. And this is why people saying about, oh, it's taking too long. It's like, because that's not just what they're building. They'll compare it to established game studios like Rockstar, like CD Projekt Red, who have very established game studios, very competent staff. These guys, even if they're individually competent, they've got to learn to work together, and then they've got to develop the policies around that, and then they've got to develop new means of working, as well as develop a game in a way that no one ever developed before. I get up my soapbox now. I get it, right? I beat this drum regularly. But regardless of whether or not you think this is a valid reason, it can't come as a surprise when you consider all this that the game's not out yet and it's still taking a while, would be my point. But yeah, would be dope to get mission loops like that for down ships, the opposite of a bounty. Sorry, what do you mean, Senef, in terms of what, bud? Oh, you mean for rescuing people and stuff? That'd be cool. The early days, they still made progress with ships, engine, etc. But yeah, they've also built a massive studio from the ground up in that 12 years. 100%, mate. Think CIG will make a game engine a studio only like Rockstar. So when they released, I'm going to change back because the white is killing me. There you go. Ta-da! I'm not pale enough. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so there is absolutely. They released the Star Engine video at CitizenCon last, right? And that engine, I don't care what anyone says, even CIG themselves, the way they because actions speak louder than words, right? The way they put that video together with the bits at the bottom, gamers don't care about precisely 50% of that stuff. 50% of that stuff is aimed at the market, right? The games development market. It's aimed at people, right? And marketing the engine, not the game. However, they did say, and people will point this out, they've said they're not going to sell the engine. And I think that's going to be the case until Star Citizen is released. Can you imagine the massive own goal if they sold the engine now and another studio releases a game on their engine before they release Star Citizen? Can you imagine how much Rock, Paper, Shotgun and all the rest of them would just tear into CIG for you can't, people are releasing games on your engine before you are, WTF, right? So that's why I think that's not happening. That's why I think they're not going that way. So yeah, exactly that. So yeah, I think that's that. Mackie Must says, people wouldn't crap on CIG if they firstly knew how long it takes to make such a game. The only reason we have negative people is because they're actually not aware the game is being made. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, they're actually aware that the game is being made. Yeah, 100%. The way this is being funded, with no investors behind it, with no publishing studio behind it, is that they can take as long as they need to, quote unquote. It'll be ready when it's ready. Release a game that they're happy with, and the game that they wanted to release. They couldn't have done that without making us aware, because obviously most of this funding, if not all of it, apart from a couple of private investments, has come from us. And I'm quite happy to be part of that. And I think when I first bought into it, I bought into it regardless of any release date statements, thinking it'll be ready when it's ready. Right, just because of it's that sort of stuff. But yeah, CD Projekt Red didn't get Cyberpunk, says Scott, to where they wanted it until last year, which is 11 years of development. Yeah, 100%. I think this is it. Squadron 42 is going to be so important, vitally important, because if Squadron 42 doesn't do well, it could really harm support for Squadron for Star Citizen in the long term. Certainly in the short term, people are going to be a lot less willing to invest, which is why they're taking the time with it, right? Which is why we're looking at least a year, I would guess, of polishing, because it's not going to come out before CitizenCon, which is a year, right? A year of polishing and even more, just to make it exactly the game that Chris envisaged when he put it together, or that. So yeah, I'm curious what your take is on the whole financial pressures thing. So in exactly the same way as investors can bake things into contracts that give them some form of leverage over a company to release a product, Chris Roberts is also fully able to, when they draw up an investment deal, to resist that. So he's fully able to, or his legal team are fully able to draw up a contract in such a way that investors cannot exert that same influence over the company. For most investors, that is going to be a no deal. So no investment happens, end of chat, right? And this is why the companies allow it to happen. Because if it's a choice between not being beholden to that, but then again, then because of that, not being able to make your game, and being able to make your game, but having to deal with that pressure, that's not a choice, right? Studios have to do that if they want to keep being a studio. It's only because of the dream that we've been sold on this, and the fact that Chris Roberts has been wanting to do this since Freelancer, since Wing Commander, right? In his own words, it's the game he's always wanted to make. It's that dream that has forwarded people on. I mean, you look at Elite Dangerous, right? Elite, the original, back in the day, was one of the most hyped computer games ever, because it was back when computer games barely had graphics. Everyone from that era who was playing games and on computers remembers Elite. And it funded what, 4 million, 12 million, something like that. I can't quite remember what it was. Not a lot. And yeah, they released a whole game. I get it. But again, that's another game that's constantly iterating. And I would argue still up to nowhere like anything like what we want from Star Citizen. Because there isn't a game out there that's going to be like this game. So yeah. Does that answer the question on the whole financial pressures, or did you mean to other companies, Scott? Because I think there are companies that don't have that pressure necessarily, right? Rockstar doesn't have that pressure because Rockstar are obviously being very tight-lipped about what they're doing, and also it is impossible to argue with the success of Grand Theft Auto 5. Right, that game's earned 6 billion and counting. Last time I googled it, right? I can go and have a look now. Wait, why not? Let's have a look. Grand Theft Auto 5 sales to date. 195 million units so far, which is what? I don't know what that is in money. But yeah, this is from 9th of Feb 2024, closing in on that. So what? Just give us an answer. How much revenue does the game make? And then it's got just in one line. Just write it out. What is wrong with you? Why? Why? Oh no, tell a lie. Yeah, useless. 8.5 billion worldwide, said Mackie. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Because this is pants. Yeah. So it is impossible to argue with that success. So Rockstar, when Rockstar turned around and get to an investor and go, trust us, why? Because we made 8.5 billion with that one game. That's like a legit reason to not go down that route, right? And force them. Loans and lenders, shareholders, corporate, plenty of companies have financial pressures and deadlines. That CIG would be some sort of deadline. Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, and I'm sure this is going to be Chris, right? But yeah. Yeah, no, I got you, says Scott, just asking in reference to the whole morphology speculation thing. Him saying CIG have hard deadlines. I don't know. I don't know where that information's coming from. He might have information that says that, but certainly that if that's the case, something's changed. Because that hasn't been the case up until now. And it's not immediately obvious what that would be. And I know I'm just going back to the news to see if there's anything in there that kind of gives us that hint, right? There's the financials, there's Turbulent, but they bought Turbulent, right? So it's not the acquisition of Turbulent that's caused that. I don't know. Maybe I'll go and have a look at Morph's video. Has anyone got a link to it? Is anyone able to put that up? We can have a quick look at that and see what he says, if that's something that people are interested in. But yeah, it was something along the lines of buyback out from when investors put money in. Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, the 11 days ago, I did see that video and then just went ugh and just didn't even click it because whatever. These are the normal clickbait videos that I try to avoid, right? The claim is that the holders can start withdrawing their investment with interest starting 2025 and even more in 2028, which can total 130 million plus. Interesting. I mean, possibly without seeing because again, I think the investors were American. Is that right? Which means that it's far less likely to be public record than it is in the UK. The terms of the agreement, and even in the UK, it's very unlikely to be public record. So yeah, very possibly. I don't know. Very possibly. Yeah. I mean, again, without evidence, it's impossible to know. I'm just going to load it up, so you're probably going to hear a blast of stuff that you don't need to hear. Recently released financial documents reveal private investigators can pull out source document. Let's have a look. That's not the source document. That's a list to their filing history. But we're gonna have to watch this now. Sorry. It's all a bit tinfoil hat for me, says Scott. They evidently had to disclose something from a UK financial audit. Yeah, very possibly. Let's have a quick look. Let's see what we've got.
With the sudden announcement of plans for Star Citizen's full release in 1.0 and Squadron 42 going into polishing after nearly 12 years of development and almost $1 billion in funding,
right?
It may sound a bit too good to be true that this is all happening now. After all, we've heard something like this before back in 2016 when Squadron 42 was originally planned to release. So what's going on then? Well, it may just be that Star Citizen and Squadron 42 both had something like a time limit put on it thanks to a series of private investments that started back in 2018 whose terms have only now just become partially public thanks to a recent UK release of financials of the UK element of Cloud Imperium Games, the development studio behind Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And so in a moment, I'm going to cut through the BS and give you guys just the important details that you need to know from these UK financial documents that were just released, so you guys know how it matters for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. So if by the end you like my breakdown and you think I deserve it, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to show your support.
You can do it
just
through this one.
I hope that you won't
just
forget
click it.
about the generous sponsor of today's video, NordVPN, who go a step further with their threat protection service. It works against intrusive ads, malware, track.
I'm not going to advertise on my stream for thingy.
Now, before I dive in, I want to thank Tony Hunter from the Guard Frequency podcast for sitting down with me and going through this document to help me better understand and analyze the information. You can find his podcast in the description down below if you're interested. He's a U.S. attorney who deals with complex contracts in the oil and gas industry and has a great deal of experience analyzing legal agreements and contracts. But keep in mind that neither of us have experience in UK financial law. Thankfully then, a good portion of this document doesn't really require any speculation, as it's pretty straightforward. Also keeping in mind that both of us are Star Citizen backers, so there's going to be some bias there. Alright, I'm gonna keep this super simple. So part of the developers of Star Citizen are based out of the United Kingdom, where they're required to submit these reports on their finances, and those finances need to be audited by a third party, so somebody outside of CIG looks at them to verify that what they're saying is true and that they're not trying to hide anything, and if there are any discrepancies, their duty is to point them out to the government and anybody who would be interested in reading these documents. The idea is to protect us and to protect any investors so that everybody knows what's going on. The ones we're talking about today are from 2022, and the reason why they were submitted just this year is because there was an extension given to everybody in the UK because of COVID. To briefly summarize the finances, CIG is doing fine according to the auditor and according to themselves. They're making a profit. They posted 8.5 million in profit after expenses in 2022, so they're doing pretty good. However, there was one thing that was of concern to the auditors. Page 9, if you're curious, explains that CIG didn't include all the information that the auditor was requesting about something called a contingent liability, which is referring to a series of private investments that were made back in 2018 by a group of private investors in the amount of around £27.5 million into the CIG UK entity, with an assumed reflected amount also going into the US organization. So basically, the auditors wanted to know what's going on with that investment so that they know how much CIG currently owes as a liability and what contingencies are on that liability as part of the agreement that they signed, which is why they want to see that agreement. Tony, the lawyer I was telling you guys about, explained to me that the risks could be related to triggers within the agreement. What I'm talking about is if there are certain conditions met, say for example, performance numbers aren't satisfactory or a product isn't delivered by a certain date, it could trigger, for example, a change in the board of directors like Chris is removed, or it could turn the investment into a loan, requiring that CIG pay them back within a certain time frame. So you can see then why this information would be important to an auditor to determine the health of the company. So here's where things got really interesting. CIG basically responds to this request from the auditor on page 37, where they start to outline some of the details of that contract without revealing.
Okay. Okay. So reasoning this. So basically, the investors can put 1,877,400 shares back into the company. Okay. If they do, then whatever they bought it for, they get 6% per year of when they bought them, right? So for 1,599,900 of those shares, right? They also have another formula, which means there'll be more money on those than there will be the whatever it is, 200 and odd thousand. So they could have taken the first whack of shares, which is 277,500 shares, which is the difference between the two, between the 1st of this year and the 31st of March. That has not happened. Okay? So, Those remaining shares, the ones with the extra premium, the just over $1.5 million, okay, they could pull that money out between the 1st of January and the 31st of March 2025. Okay, and then if they want to pull everything out at the same time, they can do that between the 1st of January and the 31st of March 2028. Is that pretty much what they've said?
The entire agreement.
Hey,
Here
there,
they
good to
outline
see you,
how
buddy.
many shares are owned privately by these investors and how they could be calculated in value, but then they go on to reveal when exactly these amounts can be withdrawn for the company, and to be clear, this has never been revealed publicly before. They talk about how in 2024, an amount of 277,500 shares can be withdrawn, and then in 2025, 1.6 million shares can be withdrawn, and then finally in
That's what I just said,
2028,
right?
all of the shares can be withdrawn by all investors. And I'm not using legal terminology here, I'm just trying to make this simple so that
So yeah, so he doesn't mean shares withdrawn. What he means is the shares are basically sold back to the company for the premium, right? They're not taking the shares out; they have the shares. It's giving the shares back and getting the money out, right? That's the difference. I think that's just because it's not more common ground, right?
everybody can understand. So, to put it simply, CIG is revealing that they have an agreement that allows the investors to withdraw portions of their money starting in
The
2024,
money,
leading up to
that's what he
2028, where they can withdraw all of their money. But most of that money, around 85% of it, can be taken out in 2025. Now, if we do some
Yes.
paper napkin math here, basically CIG owes around 60 million from the UK studio if all of the shares were to be taken out. I'm talking about US dollars 60 million, and that's more money than they have on hand if you look at their financial documents. Now, at this point, you might be a little bit concerned because, as Tony explained, the way that investors extract money from a company that can't pay back an investment is by forcing bankruptcy, where the company would be forced to sell off assets in order to pay back the investors. However, CIG goes on to say that there's nothing to worry about here because, according to the contract that they signed with these investors, that if they were to request the full amount to be withdrawn, that it would, quote, be payable out of available cash in excess of that required to effectively operate the business, and thus the liability would remain undischarged until such available cash became available. Translation is that the investors can't take out any amount of money that would jeopardize the continued operation of CIG. This prevents that worst case scenario of bankruptcy and selling off assets. They further added that the investors have agreed not to exercise their option to withdraw the money in 2024, meaning that they're pretty happy with what's going on right now at CIG and they want to continue to stay invested. And just so you guys know, these investors are on the board for CIG, so they're privy to information that we're not. They see all the contract information, they see all the financials, and so they're making decisions based off of that information that we don't have. According to the document, they're also collecting royalties, so they're probably pretty happy staying invested so they can continue to collect that money. They also directly say that they have no reason to believe that they would exercise any option to withdraw cash, but here's the problem, and this is something that Tony was
Okay, so yeah, and Citizen Ninja has it in chat, right? He's already got there before I did, right? Basically, if I'm right in reading this, or right in understanding this, and I think I am right. I've got enough ahead of my shoulders. I can get the dumbed down version. Yeah. So yes, they can pull the money out, but what they do effectively is CIG continues with its operating costs, not just to keep it the way it is at the moment, but in also in terms of if they need to increase the studio or whatever to take that money, that money is safeguarded. Basically, they have no profits, so every penny over, every cent over there, that money required will go to those investors until such time that the terms of the agreement are settled. So yes, it's not going to break the company. They can't bankrupt them through doing this. Okay, what is really interesting is, yeah, I mean the 130 million. I mean it's what 27.5. Going up 6% annually. That's refunds being a bunch of classics. So yeah, no new yacht for if he wants a yacht, he can buy an 890 like the rest of us. But yeah, so yeah, exactly that. What it's not clear is he's kind of alluded to this, right? Without really covering this point, is that these investors sit on the board of directors. So the interesting question is when CIG determines that it wants more staff, how is that voted on, right? So the question there is, if that's voted on by the board of directors, can the board of directors, including these investors, basically block the buying of new tech, the expansion of the studio as kind of like a petty way to try and get their money back? Don't know. There's always the option there, I guess, potentially of selling off parts of the company because they've been downsizing bits in LA, right? Is potentially downsizing those things, um, or selling them off, getting rid of those investors, and then continuing with the development of the game. With any luck, what will happen is Squadron 42 will sell, Star Citizen will do its thing, and Squadron 42 will effectively pay back the investors. That's that done, finished. And this becomes a non-issue. The trick with the money, the reason it said 60 mil, is because of that additional, the additional part in there, which says, and I'm just going to see if I can find it. So it's a bit that says, here you go. So for that 1.5 million, almost 1.6 million shares, they have a value formula based upon the 3 years average revenue leading up to the start of the exercise period. Okay. So in other words, from 31st of December 2022 to the 1st of January 2025, so that 3 years, that checks out, right? Check my math on that, right? That's what, pretty much 2 years or the 3 years. I suppose that'll be including 2022. So what they do is what they'll look at how much money the company's made 2022, 2023, 2024, and then when they pull that out, whatever that formula is, which is why refunds are talking shite, because they're on the board of directors. So good questions, well asked. But if they're on the board of directors, I would imagine so. Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's not the shares. They are on the board of directors. That was confirmed by Morph. Well, by Morph. That was from the understanding that they are on the board of directors. So, yeah. The question is, what's the value formula? And the answer is, we're not going to know that, right? That's going to be proprietary information based on the investment. I mean, maybe they release that, but at the moment, there's no way we're going to be able to find that out. So that's the question, as to how much money do they actually end up with. I believe Star Citizen is a long-term business. Customers are more than willing to spend big dollars for their ships, perks, and eventually land in the verse. It doesn't end at 1.0. 100%. I agree with that. Absolutely. Some do, but I don't know if CIG has the types, classes of shares of stock available. I don't know, and I'd be doing you guys a disservice if I said that I was in any way like a I'm going to get rid of that because that's a really bad color. But if I was in any way a stock, shares, or investments, but in terms of the payout and the calculations, that's easy, right? That's math, effectively. The fact that they're on, yeah, exactly that. I would imagine the board of directors have it. I can't imagine Chris, selling the type of shares that give people voting rights. Although I've got no grounds to say that, I'm just guessing because it's Chris's company. He's not gonna allow that sort of stuff to go out for exactly the same reason of not wanting to have his feet held over the fire by investors. And that's why, do you remember what I said before we watched this, that Chris will absolutely bake into the contract stuff that stops people holding his feet over the fire and releasing an unfinished product. That. Because actually, if this is the case, it doesn't matter. This is completely immaterial because they cannot take out enough money to shut down the development. The question is, as I was saying to you guys, the reason Chris might be wanting to put this out and get rid of these investors is if they are on the board and they have the ability to control decisions, they might have the ability to veto expansion of studios, purchasing of new equipment, all that sort of stuff, and they might just decide at one stage, we're not going to approve anything brand new because it's the money we said you could have, but you're developing the game now, so we don't agree that you need any more equipment. And they could be like petty that way and put their clause in. And again, I don't know. I'm no I keep saying this to go blue in the face. I'm no contract specialist. But yes, it's certainly a concern. The interesting thing here is that, well, it says a group of investors. So the question is, how many is in the group? A group could be 3, right? A group could be 12. A group could be 300. We don't know. I don't know how many are on Company's House. So I'm going to go and look it up. How many people are on the board at Company's House? Sorry, I would have a look, but I'm fucking brains all over the place at the minute. I would imagine if you want to release your shares, you're no longer on the board. Yep, 100% that. But they will be on the board until they get the money back. Will be part of it, I would imagine. Plenty of backers who buy those shares in a heartbeat. Yeah, right. Plus, you might want to get them out because of the wording of the profits payouts prior to the license of the engine, which could be stupid money. 100%. Group is probably an investment firm. Potentially, yeah, it depends. It depends what, how that's happened. The real interesting question is, I guess, so if we look at, I'm just going to go and have a look at the financials for that year. So what did that mean then? What was going on that year? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to. What was going on that year that forced them to do that? I wonder. Maybe it wasn't forcing them, right? Maybe it was something else. So in 2022, the costs of their investments were 129 million. They took in 130 million, so they're pretty much bang on. Total sales, pledges, and income. Sales, pledge, counter, subscription, other income, incentives, partnership, and other. And it's not in there because that's only 11 mil and they took 27 mil. So it's not listed in that section. Is there anyone else with... Is there anywhere else where it shows investments, I wonder? That's costs, headcount, cumulative. Here we go. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I've kind of lost it as to where we are there at the minute. But yes, CR might love having them on board. This is all just speculation based on that UK report. Yeah, 100%. And this is it. Exactly that. It may well be that none of this, that this has come to light at the same time, and it's just bad timing. 100%. That's entirely possible. I see what Morph is thinking, though. If they're pushing to get Squadron 40 out for 2025 and SE by 1 by 2028. Well, the really interesting thing there is that potentially they can get that money from Squadron 42, sit on it, and then and effectively invest it by themselves, right? And into something that's going to keep them making money, and then pay them off when it comes to it, and just have that money sat there. So yeah, I mean, they could absolutely do that. Just no actual evidence for any of it. Yeah, exactly that. All we know at the moment is there is a liability, that all these things exist, so they're not wrong. There is 100% a liability on CIG there. They're going to take some money out, at some point. That's all we know at this point, and we don't know anything else. So yeah, it's this certainly doesn't feel like the driver for it, because at the end of the day, there's nothing holding their feet over the fire. They cannot stop the development of the game, and they cannot take money out that harms the company in, like, having to get rid of staff, having to get rid of premises, having to get rid of equipment, that sort of stuff. The only thing that they might be able to do, and again, this is speculation, is prevent the investment, further information, further money. And they go, right, this is what it cost up to 2020 in the last financial year. So all we can accept is that amount of money plus whatever it is to pay people's salaries and to pay your current running costs, and anything else we want back out until we've got our money. Right? Which at worst is going to slow their development. It's not going to stop it. It's going to slow it. It's going to slow the pace, and that's it. But Squadron 42 is to me is the silver bullet to this scenario. They've got Squadron 42 to sell at some point in the next couple of years. Hopefully, the money from that makes them enough that they can then go and do that right. And all they've got to do is what, 60 million, $60 a game. All they got to do is sell another million copies of a game. Doesn't sound hard, does it? I reckon they'll pull it off. I don't think this is the bomb that anyone's making it out to be. But you know, what a shock that people are trying to make it out to be a bomb, right? But yeah. Hopefully that's enough of an answer for people. Bit of an interesting way to end that. But yeah, we'll see that. Yeah, so this is Cloud Imperium Games. It's on the CRG website, not the RSI one. Yeah, very interesting stuff when you get into the thing. Maybe I'll have a look at it, and I might do a video, or we might cover it again next stream once I've had a chance to look at it a bit more in depth, and come with my take on it, if that's something you guys are interested in. But ladies and gents, it is that time again. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you this evening. Really good to be back in the loop with you all this week. Please keep an eye on the Discord server. Link to that's down there if you're not there already. We will do yet another Overdrive event, help out for people, one of the evenings, normally about 9 p.m. UK time, if that works for everyone. It's been great to see everyone. There'll be a small hangout in the Discord if you guys want to come and have a chat after this, as I always try to do at the end of each of the streams. It's been an absolute pleasure, ladies and gents. That's us. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. See you soon.